Hey guys, this is Johnny and welcome to episode 20 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I'm here with Zach Shields from ZacharyShields.tv. How you doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
Doing awesome. So Zach is an award-winning videographer who's kind of traveled the world and is making a living going to some of the coolest places I've ever seen. And where are we now?
So where am I now?
Yeah.
We're in Chiang Mai, Thailand right now. I've been here for a couple months. I came here to do one small project that involved an adventure company, so a travel adventure company called Holistic Expeditions. And I had been shooting footage all around the world, and I shot another project for the same person in Costa Rica. And so I came here to just kind of finish it up and then edit, and then just ended up staying for a little while.
All right, very cool. So basically in today's episode, I wanted to ask you about some of the cool places that you've been, how you got to basically go there for free and even get free North Face gear, which is pretty
Canada
awesome.
Goose. Canada Goose.
Oh, Canada Goose, sorry. But even better than North Face. I think it's more expensive. And, basically just pick your brain on all that and maybe even ask you at the end how aspiring videographers can get work and get hooked up with things like this. Sure. But first, let's talk about where have you been recently, just traveling around Thailand.
Oh, recently in Thailand, mostly I've just been staying in Chiang Mai. We've gone to Pai. We traveled to Phuket and Krabi a couple weeks ago, but most of that was just traveling for fun, not really project related. But
that's cool that you can come out here and base yourself in Chiang Mai and actually get work done and make these little side trips. Like, how long were you in Pai for?
Yeah, for sure. I was in Pai actually with my family for just a weekend, and then went to Phuket and Krabi for a couple weeks. We ended up staying for a couple weeks. We weren't really expecting to, but that's kind of what happens.
All right, so for people that don't know, Pai is a little mountain town about 4 hours north of Chiang Mai. What did you like about Pai?
It was just I think it's known for being like a small little hippie town.
Yeah, it's really laid back.
It's really laid back, nice landscape. We went to some waterfalls, went to some hot springs, ate tons of food, went to the markets. I mean, it's kind of like, it's like Chiang Mai, except maybe a more interesting landscape, smaller, and a little bit more homey feel.
Yeah, it's definitely right inside of the mountain. You're surrounded by mountain forest, waterfalls. I mean, I think there's like 4 or 5 waterfalls surrounding you, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I also went piranha fishing there once too.
Piranha fishing?
Yeah,
in Pai?
Yeah, they have tons of little random things. They have
like spear fishing?
No, it's so they have a lake that they stock, and there's all these weird. Have you ever seen river monsters?
Yeah.
They have all those weird fish that you can fish for.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was cool. And Phuket, I heard you had some nice adventures down there.
Yeah, we did. We really didn't have a plan, and so we kind of just took it easy. We did a lot of hanging out on the beach and took some boat trips to go snorkeling to a couple different islands. Coral Island was really nice. We didn't do any of the big trips. We just took short, maybe 4-hour trips to the islands, but did a little bit of work in between. You wake up, have a big breakfast, do maybe a couple hours of work, catch up on emails, and then go and hang out the rest of the day. Yeah,
I was doing the exact same thing last week as well, but I was on the opposite coast. So Phuket is the west coast of Thailand, right?
Uh-huh.
Yep. And I was on the east coast. I was on Koh Phangan and Koh Samui.
Okay.
And basically doing the same thing, just hanging out. My routine would be I'd wake up pretty late, usually around 10 or 11, go have breakfast, bring my laptop there, and I would just do a couple hours of work, check some emails, and then spend the rest of the afternoon just laying on the beach and just getting a tan, hanging out.
It's great.
And it's funny that, back home, so where are you from back home?
I'm from Indianapolis. Not originally from Indianapolis, but I've been living in Indianapolis for over 10 years, but I just actually moved from there to come here, and then I'm actually not quite sure where I'm living next. I think I'm going back to New York in March.
Okay. That's cool that you have it all up in there and you have the choice, right?
Yeah.
And right now I keep forgetting it's winter back home.
Yeah, me too. I get news, I get news reports every now and then and see some photos on Facebook and whatnot, but it doesn't even it doesn't even register with me. But the scary part is that I'm going to Kazakhstan and the Arctic to Baffin Island in Canada immediately after this. So in about 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be on a plane to Kazakhstan, which is the I'm going to the second coldest capital city in the world, and then I'm going to Baffin Island in Canada for another project that is even further north than that.
That is insane, man. I mean, I thought it was crazy that, I take a couple hours flights down to some small island for a party, but you're literally going to some of the most remote places in the world that I'm sure most listeners have never even heard of. Baffin Island in the Arctic.
Yeah, I hadn't really either until I knew I was going.
So, did you bring any winter gear with you?
With me here?
Yeah.
No, I brought one light down jacket that is not really winter gear, but it keeps me. It basically does the job when I'm on my scooter rolling around Chiang Mai at night.
Yeah. Oh, we've been complaining how cold it's been in the mornings and at night here, but I'm sure it's really not that bad comparative to these other places, or
no,
even people back in Indiana. Like, I mean, how cold is it there right now?
I think it's 0 degrees, somewhere around there. Okay. I don't know. I mean, it got down below 0 for a while, like -20 I heard, but I don't really know what it is right now.
So here, the coldest, like in the mornings or very late at night, how cold does it actually get?
Well, I was talking to my friends in Canada a couple days ago, and they were asking me about where I was and what the weather was like, and I told them that it was so cold in the morning this morning that I had to put a shirt on before I went out on my patio.
But I mean, it really is cold. I mean, I'm wearing a North Face jacket when mainly because I'm on a scooter to work. I mean, it's only 5 minutes away, but I'm freezing. I'm just like, this is really cold, and I wish I had socks with me because my feet are cold. But it sounds stupid because it's still probably 40, or no, actually, it's probably higher than 40 degrees. Right now, it's probably 85. But
yeah. It doesn't get too hot, but I think cold is relative. I think if you even feel the cold here, that means it's cold. Yeah. But really, it's not cold.
But what's really cool is just going down to the islands. It's only a few hours flight. It's actually not that cheap to fly down there. I think it depends on which island you're flying to, but it's usually $300 to $600 round trip. But the nice thing is, once you're there, it's really cheap. And it's an easy flight. I mean, you can fly down and you can take a direct flight for less than 2 hours, and you can be on a warm tropical island. I went scuba diving. I just hung out on boats. And I mean, it was nice. I mean, sipping on coconuts. And the only reason why I came back is I really like Chiang Mai. I get a lot of work done here, and I have a lot of good friends here. And it's why not, right?
Yeah. It seems like a good place to be. I feel like I haven't even hardly spent any time here, but from what I know, I mean, and I didn't really know what to expect when I got here from the States. But it seems like a place that you could stay. I won't be staying, but it seems like a place that you could, and you can get a lot of work done and be productive. It's not just a tourist vacation spot. It's a place to live and work. It seems like. So
when you do work out here, so you're mainly editing videos that you already shot. How hard is it now to with today's technology to basically be able to do this mobilely?
Well, yeah, I came out here with about 10 projects that I had shot in the previous months before December when I got out here, and so I just edit on a MacBook, and that's pretty much all I need for stuff like this. A lot of the projects I'm doing are for the web, and so it doesn't involve really a lot of collaboration with other people, which could be a problem. I've done a couple projects where I've needed to pass files back and forth, and that could be that's an issue when you're working. It'd be an issue if I was in another state, in the U.S. But it's really, as long as I have my laptop and my hard drive, I'm pretty much good to go.
It's nice how small USB hard drives are now. Like how big is that one that's sitting in front of us?
Yeah, I mean I have a 2 terabyte Thunderbolt drive, and that's pretty much all I need.
That's insane. 2 terabytes?
As long as I have that, I can do all the work, almost all the work that I need to.
Do you remember like 10 years ago where you had to physically plug your hard drive into the wall?
Well, I have one of those too.
Oh, yeah? Actually, that's huge.
I have a massive one down there.
How big is that?
That's like 20 terabytes. So I brought all my stuff.
Do you know how many terabytes I have total?
1.
No, I have 128 gigabytes.
128 gigabytes.
That's it. And at first, that was the main concern I had when I bought this MacBook Air. Is I didn't really want to pay. I think it was like $300 extra for more storage because it's a flash drive. It's built in I don't even know what they call it, the SD drives. And it's great because it's fast, it's instant on. So I would never want to go back to normal hard drive again. And it's completely silent, which is amazing to me. It also doesn't use, I don't think it uses as much electricity, so you get 12 hours battery life, so you got all this great stuff. And the only downside to it is you have, very limited capacity for the price. And so I figured, you know what? I probably don't need, half the stuff on my computer. And I have an external hard drive, which I don't remember how big it is. I think it's 400 gigs. And I figured, you know what? If I really need to, I could put all my movies on there, and it's been fine. I mean, like I really have realized that if unless you're video editing like you are, for most people, you don't need that much crap. And it's almost the same thing as traveling or owning stuff. Just hold you down. Most stuff now you can just, like photos, you can put on the web, documents, Google Drive, and everything else. Just keep your life simple, man.
Yeah,
I like it. But for videos, man, I can't imagine how hard that would be to pass videos back and forth, especially in RAW format back to the US.
Yeah. If you're doing heavy duty editing or projects that require a lot of shooting, you might have a small problem, but it's not a make or break for stuff that I'm doing. But it's, I mean, you can definitely be mobile. I mean, I work from almost a different spot every day depending on what I'm doing.
So you both shoot the video and you edit it. Is that pretty common for videographer guys out there?
Yeah, I would say for the new media, the new wave of videographers now, it's pretty standard for everybody to do everything. For someone to be able to be a one-man band, I basically, and especially now, you can shoot GoPro underwater. I shoot with DSLRs or other cameras depending on the project, on land, and then you can shoot with a helicopter in the air. So, I mean, you can kind of cover everything, and you can do it all on your own. And you can, I have all of that equipment here.
Like literally in this room.
Here in this room,
all this equipment, which is crazy.
That I carried on a plane with me. So, you can literally shoot everything you would need. For the most part, stuff that I would need, and you can carry it with you and travel anywhere you need to with it.
I think it's pretty cool that you have a helicopter here.
Yeah, it's the DJI Phantom helicopter. It's kind of it's basically spread aerial video to the masses, and so I've been playing with aerial video for a couple years, and I had one that sent me to the hospital and gave me 80 stitches in my arm.
Wow.
About a year and a half ago.
I'm staring at that right now.
But I decided to basically let that one go, and I crashed it in the Gobi Desert last summer, and so I didn't really have a choice. But that one no longer exists. I obliterated it, and so I went with the Phantom just because it's easier and you can take it. It's easier to travel with. I couldn't bring the large one here, and so it's more of a matter of function rather than you let go of a little bit of video quality to have convenience, and still a really nice platform.
And at the end of the day, video quality now is so good for across almost everything now. I mean, compared to, let's say, 10 years ago, to have even GoPro quality was really hard.
Sure.
And now, it's in the hands of everybody, which is crazy.
Sure. Well, I've been making videos here. I just started making videos here on my iPhone. Because you don't have complete creative freedom by doing that, but I found that it's you can shoot and edit with your iPhone, and it's good enough quality to kind of give an impression. So all these places that I'm traveling, sometimes it doesn't make sense for me to shoot a full out video, or sometimes I just don't want to or don't have the time, and I'd rather experience it than actually do work. So I've been shooting videos on my iPhone and just posting them online that are kind of like, short, impressionistic, here's what happened, or here's where I visited, interesting place that I visited that I just wanted to capture real quickly.
Well, I was just watching your video of you in the Gobi Desert. I'm assuming that's Africa, but I really have no idea what that is.
The Gobi Desert is Mongolia.
Okay. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Mongolia, I just listened to The Wrath of the Khans. It's a podcast episode by a guy named Dan Carlin, Hardcore History. 5 parts. Each part is 2 hours long, and it is the best history podcast I've ever heard, and the best story of Genghis Khan I've ever heard. And in it, he describes how vast the steppes are in Mongolia, and you got to see that firsthand.
Yeah, we did. I'm not a expert on the history of the country or anything like that, but we did get to experience almost the entire country. I work with an ultra runner named Ray Zahab from Canada, and he ran across the Sahara Desert in 2006, and they made a documentary about him, and so he does these ultra marathons all around the world. And so his latest was in the Gobi, and he ran clear across the Gobi Desert, edge to edge, basically, which was just over 2,000 kilometers. And it took him 35 days, running approximately 60 kilometers a day.
That's insane.
Yeah,
man.
60 kilometers a day.
That's insane. Like running, I mean, imagine running 10Ks every day.
Yeah.
Or how many kilometers are in a marathon?
I don't know the exact number, but he was running about a marathon and a half per day. So about 40 miles a day, 30 to 40 miles a day.
So he was running more than a marathon every day, and he was doing it in a desert.
Yeah.
How did the water situation work out for that?
Well, we had a crew. It was a supported expedition, so we had there was a food truck, and then we had 3 or 4, depending on the time, SUVs that would bring all of our stuff with us. But we did actually have, I mean, it's, the Gobi Desert it's being developed right now, and there's a lot of mining and oil out there, so there's more people in the Gobi Desert, and there's more towns than there used to be. But it really is, I mean, you can go 300K without seeing anybody and without seeing a town, and so we would have to map our course by where we could get water and where we could get gas for the vehicles, or else we would have gotten
well, at least we had the taco trucks following you.
Yeah. That would have been nice.
It would have been. I'm sure once you're out there, you're like, man, I wouldn't give it for a pizza truck right now.
That would have been
Just
amazing.
come by. What did you eat actually out there then?
We ate a lot of goat, a lot of goat, a lot of meat, a lot of French fries, rice, a lot of potatoes. I mean, just kind of it was pretty basic. It was good. A lot of the food was good. We had some Mongolian barbecue. It was their national festival, and so
nice.
While we were out there, so we got to experience the national festival and the horse races and all of their traditional games that date back to Genghis Khan times.
Nice. I'm sure the Mongolian barbecue is much different from the stuff you get in the mall at the great. Was it the Genghis walk?
It is quite different. It's a little bit more raw, natural.
Yeah,
a lot more fat on the meat.
So you don't walk around try to pack as much like frozen slices of meat on top of these noodles and vegetables and have some guy posing on the Mongolian with his giant chopsticks. Start
I did not see a single pair of chopsticks. I did not see any Mongolians using chopsticks to eat their massive chunks of meat.
I wonder how that restaurant came about, because that's everywhere in the U.S.
I don't know.
Everyone just assumes Mongolian barbecue is that, and it's not. I mean, it has nothing to do with that. Maybe the lamb. I mean, I guess they eat lamb, but they don't even eat that many vegetables. Do they even eat noodles?
I really don't know if noodles are if that's a staple of their diet. Really, it was just a lot of meat and potatoes.
Yeah, well, that sounds good.
Yeah. Not a ton of vegetables for sure, especially where we were. I had a unique experience because we were in the desert and we crossed the entire desert, and so there wasn't a lot out there. Cuisine is not their specialty in the desert, because what they have, they're herders, and so they basically eat the animals that they're herding, and there's not a lot of water, so they can't grow a ton of vegetables, and so they don't really have that many options. It's a lot of dairy and a lot of meat. That's everywhere you go. It was horse milk. We went through the process of making horse milk vodka, basically, or horse milk moonshine.
Wow, yeah.
Which is it sounds a little bit
disgusting.
And the horse milk itself, just the horse milk not fermented, was a little bit disgusting.
Yeah,
I thought. Some people like it. I think it's an acquired taste. But that's what they eat. They eat a lot of cheese, goat cheese, horse milk. And they make like an unlimited number of products out of the milk
of the horse.
Yeah,
I didn't even know horses gave milk. I mean, I assume they do because they're mammals, but I never heard of anyone eating horse milk.
They do.
Until I actually recently watched an episode of what was it called? Fresh Out the Boat with Eddie Huang.
Yeah.
He's like the Asian Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, he was just in the Gobi.
Yeah, so that's the same place. So he was in Mongolia and he was exploring the food there, and it didn't look that appetizing to me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was hit or miss. Sometimes I liked it, sometimes I didn't.
But I definitely like lamb, and I want to eat more of lamb. Like, we just don't eat that much lamb in the U.S. for whatever reason.
Not as much of it to go around, I guess.
And ironically, in Canada, when I was in Toronto, and you get tons of lamb from New Zealand in the supermarkets, and it's really cheap. And I have no idea why, because it's even further. But what I do like about that area is Kazakhstan sounds to me like really interesting, and it's not just because I watched Borat and I want to see that firsthand. My first memory of anyone from Kazakhstan was I was in New York and I met these two girls, one who looked clearly Asian and one looked Russian, and they were both from Kazakhstan. I mean, their personalities, I mean, because they're from the same culture, was spot on. I mean, they could have been sisters. And I was talking to them and they were saying, yeah, like it's in Kazakhstan, it's just like being blonde or brunette. Like it's the exact same culture, so it doesn't matter if one person looks completely Caucasian and the other looks completely Asian. Everyone just views them as the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know too much about Kazakhstan, to be honest with you. I'm going to shoot a video for a friend's company that exports felt products from Kyrgyzstan, and so I'm sure I'll get a crash course once I make it over there. But I do know that it's one of the fastest growing economies in the world, as is Mongolia, and so there's a ton going on right now in that region just because of the natural resources. And so the cities, Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia and Astana in Kazakhstan, from what I hear, I'm not an expert, but they're these cities that are growing like Dubai style cities where they just kind of pop up in the middle of nowhere and they have tons of money, and so they're becoming these massive kind of world class cities. That's
so crazy. So for anyone that complains that like Bangkok is getting too busy or there's no unexplored places in the world, there are a ton of unexplored places. And I used to be one of those people who wanted to go and say, I want to go somewhere no tourists, and I want to see it for the way it is. And that's probably going to be, these places like Mongolia and Kazakhstan. So if you want to be the first, be a pioneer, go to those places and explore. For me, I like kind of waiting to that sweet spot where there's enough infrastructure, where it makes it really easy to travel, and I can meet some other travelers as well, but not so crazy where the locals are sick of the travelers. And that's kind of why I don't like Phuket. If you go to Phuket and you just stay at a resort, it's beautiful. Beautiful beach, great weather, and you have access to some nice islands. But the actual main part of Phuket, which is called Patong, it's like this crazy, disgusting beach that the locals, basically they're just trying to rip everyone off, and it's half everyone's fault because the tourists for so many years have been acting like these drunk idiots running around where they were just asking to get ripped off, especially because they're being rude, and the locals are like, well, I'm just gonna basically gouge these people for as much as we can. What I really like about places like Chiang Mai that's at that perfect point right now is there's plenty of infrastructure, so you can kind of do whatever you want. It's really easy to travel around, but locals are still super friendly because they're not sick of the tourists yet. And I can imagine places like Kazakhstan where it'd be super hard to get around, especially if you don't know anyone. But the locals would be extremely friendly because they're excited to see a tourist in your face.
That could be. I really don't know. I mean, I know it's very, they're massive countries. Mm-hmm. So anytime you have that massive of a swath of land, the cities are going to be somewhat sparse. But I really don't know, how much tourism is going into places like Ulaanbaatar, Astana. I think Astana in Kazakhstan might be a little bit more. I think they have a little bit more going on. It might be a little bit more tourist friendly. But I really don't know how much tourism is there.
It's gonna be fun once you go there for a little exploration. I mean, this is kind of a cool thing about having jobs, like a job like yours, where you're going there for work, but you also get to see a whole new country that you never would have thought about before. I mean, where are some places that you've been for work that you probably never would have went, on your own?
Most of them, to be honest. I mean, a lot of the places that I end up going are, I don't even know where they are until someone says, "Hey, we're going here." So, it was the same with the Gobi. So, I've been to the salt flats in Bolivia, the Salar de Uyuni, in which I had maybe heard of it, seen pictures, videos, things that have been shot there, but I didn't really know too much about it. And
I want to go there.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's one of the most incredible places. It's like being on the moon, and it's the largest salt flats on the planet, and it's just never ending. Just flat white earth for as far as you can see.
So I've seen some photos of it where you can see the reflection of the sky. Does that have to be at like a certain point of the sun or like a certain time of year?
I'm not sure. I mean, the salt flats, from what I understand, it's basically a huge lake that the salt has risen to the top, and so now it's a hard surface, and so it still gets wet. So when they're basically scraping up the salt, there can be areas that are flooded, and so you get these really flat, blue looking reflections because the water is just on top of a white surface, and so you get these really amazing reflections and amazing scenes that you couldn't get anywhere else in the world.
That is awesome, man. Bolivia is actually one of the places I want to go. It's on my list, which is strange because it's kind of a country that people don't really think about. But from what I've heard of, I mean, basically, so you meet a lot of travelers when you're out of your country, and there's always a couple places that everybody mentions how great it was. And when I was in Central America, I kept asking people about Costa Rica or Belize. And these places that were more famous for being incredible. Mm-hmm. And everyone was like, yeah, they're okay. A little bit overpriced, a little bit this, a little bit that. And every single person said, but Guatemala was amazing. You have to go there. Mm-hmm. And I never even considered going to Guatemala. I don't even know if I knew anything about it before I was there. And I happened to be scuba diving in Honduras. There's a little island off of there. This set of islands called Roatan and Utila. And the diving wasn't that good. And I didn't really like the island that much, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll check out a neighboring country since I'm already here. And Guatemala ended up being incredible. I mean, literally the whole country. I didn't go to the capital because at the time, it might still be, is known as one of the murder capitals of the world. But it's crazy that aside from that main capital, the rest of it was so safe. I was in a place called Antigua, which is their old capital, and it reminds me a lot of Chiang Mai because it was gated, so it has like these old gates, just like Chiang Mai's in this, has a moat and these old gates, and the city's a square. And in the very center of it, which I wish Chiang Mai had because that would make it really cool, is they had a park, almost like Central Park, mm-hmm. But a small version of it, like a really tiny, park, mm-hmm. but had like all these coffee shops and cafes around it, all these old ruins, like these old, I don't know if they're like old churches or something, mm-hmm. that were just kind of dilapidated, but it just everywhere. It was beautiful, and all cobblestone roads. There were horses being dragged around, and I never would have even considered going there, or even heard of it, if it wasn't for meeting other travelers that say it. So one big piece of advice to people out there is the places that you've heard of all over TV, all over, magazines aren't necessarily going to be the ones that are going to be amazing, because those are the places that, were probably amazing 10 or 20 years ago. And now, they're kind of past their peak as far as so many people go there all the time that you don't even really get to see anything, because it's just all you see is a sea of people. While these kind of new up and coming places, you can go and there'll be just enough infrastructure we can get around, and it's the locals will still be super friendly and really just trust that your fellow travelers. So on that point, where are some places that besides Bolivia that you've seen that have been really beautiful that other people may not have on the top of their list?
I don't know if well, most recently I was in Peru, and we were in Cusco, kind of as our home base. In Cusco, I knew nothing about it, but it was basically the capital of South America. I mean, that was where everything happened in South America historically. 1500s and before. That was kind of the central city, and so it's a really old city, all cobblestone streets. A lot of Spanish influences in the old churches, old massive churches, and it's kind of set up in that same way where it's got a central square, and then the whole city though is basically just a series of connected parks and gathering places where people hang out, and the landscape, it's right in the mountains, and so the landscape is really amazing. It's one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. It's the people are friendly. There's tons and tons of food. There's amazing food. Peruvian food's incredible.
Oh, have you had one of my favorite dishes was lomo saltito?
Is that the llama?
No, it's
they have
some kind of steak. Okay, so from what I remember, and I haven't had it in a long time because it's not really paleo.
Lomo? No, it's llama. I'm pretty sure it's llama.
I think lomo just means meat.
Oh, okay.
And then saltado is the actual dish.
Okay.
And it's basically it's like strips of steak. And it's almost like the version of fried rice. Mm-hmm. But what's really good is they have their Spanish rice, and they saute it with tomatoes and French fries, like parsley, and this steak. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't sound that appetizing, but it is so good. Like I think it's the sauce they use on it, and it's the combination of the rice that soaks up all the flavor, the parsley, which you normally would never have, with rice, and then the crispy French fries that they randomly put in. So you have this crunch, you have the potatoes, and I loved it. I've also had something else from Peru that I really like too. What are some other dishes you like there?
I mean, they're their specialty that they try, and I don't even know if this is what the locals eat, but what you can find everywhere, is the llama dish. It's basically just llamas, and it's either fried or grilled, and then it comes with vegetables and French fries. They actually they use a ton of French fries in a lot of their meals as like the right? base. Yeah, French fries, onions, meat, and just good spices. I mean, it's basic food. It's not really anything that's very complicated, but it's really good, and a lot of eggs. They put eggs in like every one of their dishes.
So that's a business idea for anyone that wants to open a restaurant. You can make a llama only restaurant.
Llama meat.
And
alpaca.
You can call it Llama Del Rey. Everything on the menu is going to be llama, all right? And you're just going to play, Llama Del Rey music in the background all the time.
Yes.
Just on repeat.
That would be the weirdest restaurant I've ever been to.
I would go to it. Peruvian themed, llama photos everywhere. But it'd be like llamas dressed in like funny hats and sunglasses.
Everybody gets a llama fur jacket on their way in.
Nice. I like that. It'd be classy. Yeah. I wouldn't mind having a llama fur rug right now under my freezing feet. All right. So if someone wanted to get into real business, let's say someone's an aspiring videographer, what would you recommend to someone just starting out? If they have an interest in it, maybe they've made some videos on their on iMovie, and they've been shooting it on like a little handheld camera. What would you recommend? Like, how would the easiest way for someone to start getting work be?
Yeah, no, that's always a good question, and I have a very specific answer. My first piece of advice is, depending on what you're doing, if you want to go work in Hollywood and be a cinematographer for Martin Scorsese, then maybe go to school, go to UCLA and rise up the ranks and try to go that way. But there's so much work otherwise, other than just Hollywood or what you think, or working on larger movies. If you want to do documentary stuff, or you're doing corporate stuff, or branded infotainment type of stuff, or educational things, it's just a matter of going out there and doing it, especially because we have the tools. Everybody knows we have the tools now. Mm-hmm. You can go out and get a DSLR and minimal gear for $2,000 or less, and you can shoot stuff that's just as good as anybody else, as long as you have good taste and you're paying attention to what's out there and you're creative. You have the tools to make anything you want. So my first bit of advice would be just to go do it. Go out and make something. Don't wait for someone to tell you how to do it. Look online, figure it out, and then just go out and make stuff. And and make things that are really good. And then also, no one's going to come looking for you just because you have good stuff online. And so, what I've done is I worked at a company for a long time, and so I didn't really have to worry about getting work and all those things. And after I left there a couple of years ago, I basically just set out to, my main goal was not to sell 2 videos a month to someone that I didn't know. My main goal was just to work with people that I wanted to work with. Mm-hmm. And that's turned out to be, the greatest sales that I could have asked for. I just started working with people that I wanted to, doing stuff that I was interested in, and then the work just kind of came, opportunities just kind of popped up, and then one opportunity always leads to the next. So
when you say you worked with people you wanted to work with, were these friends already, or did you not know them yet? Were they just like were they people that you you saw and you're like, one day I want to work for this guy, so let me start out somehow?
A little bit of both. I did a little bit of both. It was, a lot of my friends now are people that I wanted to work with in the past, and so I started working with them, and now they've become friends, and so we'll work together a lot.
But how'd you get that first gig with them?
Sometimes volunteering, sometimes work. I guess the first gig is always the question. I guess the most common way is that I would contact somebody and say, I like what you do. I want to work with you. That's one of my good friends and favorite group to work with in Indianapolis is a group called Big Car Arts Collective, and I'd kind of known some of the people involved, but I basically just I did a couple of videos for them early on, and I started volunteering at their space. They had a community garden and all these things and I was interested in that, and so I just started hanging out and being around, and then all of a sudden it kind of just turned into a working relationship as well. And so it was a little bit of both. We were started off as work and life and volunteering, and it just kind of turned into being able to actually do work and make a living at it.
I think that's a really cool way of getting into it. I mean, there's so many people who think the traditional route is, going to school, graduating, and then applying for jobs at these big companies and putting your resume through, with 1,000 other people. I would never do that. I don't even have a resume. And if I wanted to work, let's say I wanted to freelance for something, I wanted to write for someone, or wanted to do something, I would just, network. I would, and not network in a way where, you try and get something from people. I would just network as in, let me get to know people, hang out, figure out what they're working on, and see if there's anything I can do to help out. Even if I'm helping out for free in the beginning, just to build up some experience, build up my portfolio. I think shooting for content, is that a term that you guys use, or is that just for porn?
That might just be for porn.
Okay. But there's people that do stuff like that where, I know, at least with models and stuff, to be a photographer, there's a lot of people in the beginning that would just shoot and help each other out and say, oh, you want to be an actor, I want to be a videographer. Let's do something together, and let's just make a cool video just because we want to do it, even though no one's buying it right now.
Right. And
it's great for your portfolio. It's great for experience, but also if you include the people that you want to eventually work with anyways into these little projects, especially these nonprofit projects, it's if you do a good job and you basically make a good connection with them and you become friends, the next time a paid gig comes up, they'll always think of you first.
Right.
And I think for business, I really, really genuinely believe that the best jobs are never posted anywhere, because as a business owner, the very first thing I did when I wanted to hire an employee was I asked all my friends, and I asked on Facebook, hey, does anyone know of anyone that wants to do this job that has these skills? And then after that, I'll actually go on Odesk or Freelancer and then have to go through the process, because I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And often you don't even need to be the best. You don't have to have the highest grades. You don't have to graduate with honors. And you'll still get the job because people like you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, just don't be a jerk. Really, that's the best business advice that I can give, and just the ways to get work is just be nice and do what you want to do and do what you love and do something that you're passionate about. Really, if you do those two things, hopefully you'll be able to make, with a little bit of strategy, you'll be able to make a living at it.
I really think so. I've been hanging out with you for the past couple of weeks, and you're just a cool guy. And I would hire you for any video work I had. Even before watching any of your videos, I just assumed you were good. And now that I've actually watched your videos, I'm like, oh, okay, you actually are really good. But I haven't, went out and reviewed, 100 other applicants for anything. But I would pick you anyways, just because I know you know what you're doing, you're passionate about it, and you're a good person. And I'd rather have that than a guy who gives me his resume and says, "Oh, I graduated top of my class. I've won, this award. I'm a creative genius." I'm like, I don't care.
When I've gone through the hiring process, at the company that I used to work for, when we would interview people that were applying for jobs, it was never. I never even looked at their resume. The first thing I would look at was. Basically their style. So if I would look at their videos online, if they weren't terrible, I probably wouldn't look any further. But if they were, if they were okay, or they had something cool going on, you would narrow it down like that. But then really the people that we would hire were just the people that we liked. A lot of times it wasn't the person that had the greatest product out there, but it was the person that we thought was cool, that we would like to work with and be friends with.
And that's like that for everything in the world. Every single business in the world is like that. And it's crazy that people just keep, like people in China are trying to get the highest marks and the highest grades no matter what. And they're not spending any time developing their personalities, their social skills. And it's like, it's creating, this, and it's insane. It's like only the top 1% of the highest grades, gets into a certain school, and then they get hired at a certain soulless company. I think the 99 other percent of the world operates like we do. You want to hire your friends.
Yeah. Well, and there could be, other jobs maybe in different fields like science, where you do want the smartest guy, maybe that has no personality in the room. But if you're wanting to live, if you're probably listening to this, you probably live a certain lifestyle where you're not working in that industry maybe. And so the personality might be a little bit.
And I definitely agree. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be passionate about it. So for videography, you have to have at least one good demo video. I mean, that's a must. I mean, if somebody had a cool personality, but has either bad videos or no videos at all, you wouldn't hire him.
Yeah, you can't have nothing. You still have to have skills. There's no replacing skills and good taste and talent and passion. But even I wasn't. I never. There are some people that I'm almost intimidated by, because they, really young videographers or people that do similar things, because their stuff is so good right off the bat, like right when they start, and my stuff wasn't the best right off the bat, but I just I really love doing it, and I worked really hard at it, and I feel like I've improved a ton, and I'm in a place where I'm very confident, and I know that I can do good work. But so even if you're not doing, even if you're not the best right off the bat, if you stay focused, and if you like doing it, you'll become the best. You'll become the best that you can be, or you'll get up to where you want to be, to where you can be confident. That's a lot of it too, is just being confident and knowing that you can do the work. If you're trying to sell something that you don't think that you can even do, then that's a problem as well.
Makes sense. So for me personally, the way I got into video editing was I hired a guy to edit a video years ago for me, and I was sitting next to him, watching him do it, and that way I can kind of tell him what I wanted. And while he was doing it, I was looking at it, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I can just do that myself. And something just really clicked in my mind, because I was watching him, exactly what he was doing, and a lot of it's kind of like the same actual steps, like, okay, let's edit a little bit here, let's put a transition here, let's put a title here, let's do all this. And it used to be so much harder. I remember just importing a video and waiting for it to render used to take all night. And now, with like digital formats, it's pretty much instant for at least normal sized files. But even like HD videos, it's pretty much instant now. And every single computer comes with a free video editing program. Not the best, but if you're just getting started, never done any video editing, and you're kind of just exploring it as something that you want to do for fun, or even maybe a potential career. If you have a Mac, you have iMovie. And if you have a PC or a Windows machine, you have Windows Movie Maker. And both, I'm sure Zach's going to say, is not the best and definitely not professional grade. But as a new user, they are so much better than they were 5 years ago. Like 5 years ago, Windows Movie Maker was unusable. It was like literally the biggest POS in the world. And now, on at least after Windows 7, it's actually pretty good. It's not gonna you're not gonna be able to make a Hollywood movie on there, but you can make some pretty cool stuff with it. Mm-hmm. And almost every camera out there that films in HD makes decent video now.
Yeah.
But what
and that's another I guess a piece of advice that I would give is that don't freak out about the gear. Don't I try to stay up on what's out there, and it's important, but I don't geek out too much on all the technical aspects of every new camera and what's the newest thing, and because that's not what makes your work great. And it's not what's going to get you a job because you have this camera versus that camera. It's the creativity you put in it. And I know that's preached in, whatever it is, but especially now because there's so much going on with gear and technology in the production world, people can really focus on that. And that can almost be a hindrance or a distraction from just going out and doing good work.
Well, if somebody likes you and they want to hire you and you don't have the specific gear for that project, I'm sure they'll just they have a budget to let you rent it anyways.
You rent it or you buy it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's always been my philosophy. I've gotten jobs where I didn't have something, but I knew that I could have it if I needed it. Yeah. And so I'd go out and get it if I needed it for something I wanted to do.
Bam, I like that. Yeah. And it's cool that those handheld DSLRs now make great video. I've seen a couple of commercials that were shot just using those cameras, and they're good.
Yeah. The Canon. I know they shot, I think for their T4i. They actually shot the commercial for that camera on that camera.
Yeah, which is cool.
So, to kind of prove a point.
Why don't those DSLRs record over 15 minutes at a time?
Some of them do. They're changing. I really don't know technically why they don't. I mean, there's a lot of limitations with them just because it's a new technology. And I think a lot of it's because of overheating, because they're not necessarily built to be video cameras. They kind of fit that into something that was otherwise just for taking photos.
That makes sense.
So because they fit it in, there's these little weird things that might not work well. You get aliasing weird pattern problems because of the shutter, and it records shorter clips. But they're fixing that, and they're moving on. There's a camera now. It's a C100. It's a $5,000 camera. And it's just a video camera, and it's not that much bigger than a DSLR, but DSLRs will eventually become cameras basically now, no matter what it is, whether it's a DSLR or a full production camera, professional production camera, or an iPhone. Like, they're all just kind of blending together.
Yeah,
every camera's going to get smaller and better, and they're all just kind of. In 2 years, you're going to be able to have I think in 2 years your iPhone is going to be able to shoot professional quality video to where, I could actually shoot a video for a client on something, maybe not the iPhone, but maybe something like the iPhone, or just as big as the iPhone, something just as simple as the iPhone.
Yeah, like for me, I have a Canon S95. It's just a handheld point shoot camera. Takes good photos. Definitely not as good as a DSLR, but pretty good photos. And the video, HD video, the only two things I used to think it was like, why would I ever need a professional video camera? And what I've realized is that the two things it's missing. One is stabilizing the image while I'm shooting, and second is having external mic capabilities.
Yeah.
But aside from those two things, it is incredible. I mean, what's like some of my favorite videos that I've ever shot, really just for fun for myself, were underwater videos when I used to scuba dive a lot. And so all my videos that I've shot underwater were filmed just using these point and shoot, Canon cameras that were in an underwater housing, and I would white balance it every time I would go up and down a few meters, because the lighting is so difficult to do underwater when you're scuba diving. But because I had the technique down for white balancing, and I had a lot of dive experience. I had over 700 dives, so I was really stable underwater. So there's no stability issues. and I would do little tricks. Like I would make sure to see which way the sun's actually facing before I record. And I would do these little tiny things, and the videos came out really well compared to people with these really expensive cameras that had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you're just getting started, don't go out and buy the most expensive gear.
Yeah, definitely not.
Just get a DSLR, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, DSLR, or even before that, don't even wait to get a DSLR. Just shoot something on your iPhone.
There you go.
Look up iPhone films online, and you can find amazing, beautiful films shot on an iPhone 4.
Okay.
If you have a brand new iPhone 5S or whatever the newest iPhone is, you can shoot slow motion video. You can shoot amazing stuff. Go up, start making iPhone videos, and then go from there. Actually, that might be your training course. Like you could earn your DSLR by going out and shooting an iPhone video.
I like that. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on this episode. It's been fun just kind of chit-chatting about cool places to go. So good luck to you in Kazakhstan and then in the Arctic. Make sure you wear some warm clothes. How did you?
I will be fully suited up.
Yeah. So Canada Goose.
Canada Goose is a sponsor for Ray Zahab, the runner, the ultra runner, and so they're gearing us up for the Arctic. So we'll be outfitted with some of the best gear in the world from head to toe.
That is dope. And you got to keep it afterwards?
I think so. I hope so.
Well, if anyone out in Canada,
I'm going to be wearing it for about 2 weeks. I don't think they're going to want it back.
But that's cool. That's another little fringe benefit. So you get to travel, you get free cool clothing, and you get all these nice experiences. Yeah. So for anyone out there listening that is interested in checking out your videos, where can they go?
ZacharyShields.tv.
Okay, and this is episode 20. So what you can do is you can go to travellikeabosspodcast.com, click on show notes, episode 20, and I'll have links not only to Zach's page, but also I'll put up my 2 favorite videos that he shot. I'm just going to embed it right in that page so you can watch it. One of them is the one in the Gobi Desert, and the other is a really cool video that is shot with, around, it's basically everywhere that you've traveled with your family.
Just Chiang Mai with my family. I finished shooting it in Chiang Mai, and I just kind of used my family trip as a model for part of the video. But other footage has just come from, I just kind of took one clip here and there from different places around the world that I've traveled over the past 4 or 5 years, probably.
So really beautiful video. I'll put that up as well. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Cool.
It was fun.
All right. Thanks for listening to another episode. And thank you guys so much for all the 5-star iTunes reviews you guys have been putting up. Make sure you share this with your friends. And I'll see you guys next week. Peace out. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.